All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me here today to share some thoughts on this this topic for the day. Are you able to project the slides? Okay. Anyway, I have my own, and I think I can just have a conversation here. So today's, the theme of intelligent systems, I think it couldn't be a more timely topic in 2017. For those who've been reading, all the predictions, the 2017 predictions, and looking back at the last couple of years, I think AI and intelligent systems or augmented intelligence has really come of age in 2016. So I think in 2017, we can all expect to see, disruption in this area at unprecedented levels. So let me begin with the obvious, right? Disruption is upon us, right? So we know, for example, the biggest, if you take a look at Uber, Airbnb, Alibaba, Facebook, and so on, we know that the biggest, taxi company has no cars. The largest accommodation business owns no real estate assets. We know the largest retailers carry no inventory. The biggest media company doesn't own any content. So this is just restating the obvious. Disruption is upon us. Now, here's the interesting thing. What's powering this disruption is what we all know as the data network effects, right? So once you have a platform on which you recruit users, the more users you have, the more data you collect, the smarter your algorithms are, the more intelligent your systems are, the better your product is, the better your user experience is, and this is a virtuous cycle that feeds each other, right? And so that's how you have this billion users on various platforms, and that, frankly, I believe it's really one of the underpinnings of intelligent systems in today's time. But here's the interesting thing, right? So the data network effect clearly fuels the need for intelligent systems, but I think what the crux is here is today, and I don't want to go into the exabytes of data, I think we all know how data is growing, but the interesting thing is 80% of this data is uncertain. Right? So you're going to have such large amounts of data with all the 3 or 4 V's, right? Volume, veracity, and I forget the other 2, but all the 4 V's, you're going to have all this data. But 80% structured and unstructured, but most of it is uncertain, right? So you're going to have these probabilistic, intelligent techniques and technologies that are going to be necessary in order to harness the value from this data. And so therein lies the opportunity for both enterprises, large enterprises, and for startups. And so let's just, a couple of comments. I think, I'm assuming the audience is mixed. We have interest and representation from large enterprises as well as startup companies. So enterprises, clearly, you've got your systems of record. You've got all this data that sits in the, in, for example, your sales, your marketing, your HR, your finance data sits in the systems of record. Startups invariably start with systems of engagement. This is the interaction, the interface, in terms of how you engage with users, you acquire them, you retain them, you deliver a delightful customer experience, and so on. But right there in between the systems of record and systems of engagement is what you have are these systems of insight. And the systems of insight bring in the relevant data from both these systems and unleash the power of decision making. And that, frankly, is really what powers the intelligent systems for today. And I think you'll hear much more about this in some of the panels specific to verticals and so on. So at this point, I just leave it to, I think it's interesting to look at who the enterprise leaders are, some of the leaders are in intelligent systems, and also look at some of the startups, right? So without a doubt, Amazon, Google, IBM, Microsoft, Salesforce, Baidu, and a whole host of others are the enterprise leaders. What's interesting about them is each one of them has their unique strategy in terms of how they're approaching the AI space and solutions for intelligent systems. I'm happy to kind of, chat with you more about this. Oh, I'm glad this is up. But clearly, Amazon, for example, comes from its position of AWS leadership. I would say Google comes from a developer focus. I really like Microsoft's approach. Just like they democratized Excel, right? I mean, Excel really became your universal tool for doing the types of calculations it supports. Today, their machine learning strategy is pretty much the same as Excel. I think they're trying to replicate that. Salesforce has got this embedded Einstein platform model. And again, I think that's going to be very successful in that vertical that it supports. So each of the enterprise leaders have their own unique strategy in terms of how they're approaching intelligent systems. If you look at the race for AI, the next slide, I mean, I don't want to go through this, but I think it's worth looking at just in the last 3 years, I can say pretty much from 2014 through 2016, the number of acquisitions by these high-end enterprise players who have declared AI as a must-win battle, it's amazing. I know this is quite an eye chart. I'm happy to chat with you about this, but there's a number, you're only going to see this increase. So just look at it. Just between 2014, 15, 16, the number of acquisitions in the space has been amazing. And this is going to continue. You're going to see that in 2017. Now, switching gears to the startup opportunity, I think it's worth, for those entrepreneurs in the room who are thinking about what the opportunity is for startups, I look at it from 3 dimensions, right? So there's opportunity in the enterprise space, as well as in the industry space, in the tool space, and you have to look at it from all facets to arrive at your sweet spot. I believe the enterprise AI opportunity is clearly a case where if you go closer to the systems of record, and apply a layer of intelligence on the processes, on the systems of record, you're going to solve some real killer back office problems. You're already seeing this with companies like TACT, like Hyperscience. They're all solving back office, grungy, non-glamorous problems, but however, extremely important problems for the enterprise. So that's one decision to be made. The other one is vertical industry focus. I think you're going to hear a lot about it at today's panels. Large companies tend to have a horizontal strategy. They have a platform. They can afford to have a broad play. Startups need to, tend to pick specific vertical problems and then apply their technologies, solve that one problem extremely well. So you're going to see more of that stratification. And finally, there's a decision to be made from tools to platform. Large companies, again, while every company aspires to have a platform, startups are invariably going to start from the tools perspective, have some very specific tools to solve specific problems, and go from there to a platform strategy. And so I think what's interesting is the opportunity that intelligent systems powered by a whole set of AI technologies offers opportunity for both large enterprises, startups, and there's room for all, and there's room for innovation from all quarters here. I won't go through, I have a whole bunch of startups here. One comment on a technology stack. I think you're going to see there's an AI stack developing, and it could be quite interesting to find your sweet spot in the technology stack. For example, are you a data service? Are you a machine learning algorithm? Are you a natural language translation or natural language manipulation capability? Are you a data capture capability? It's important to figure out where you fit in the stack so you have a clear, cohesive story. And finally, in conclusion, let me just remind you that I come from, IBM Watson, and so you may all remember the 2011 historic IBM Watson victory in the Jeopardy game. And since then, I just want to point out, and we have plenty of resources on this, where in 2011 we had a single API, which we call as the question answer API. Today you're going to see that Watson has grown from that one API into a rich set of over 30 plus, 40 plus APIs that span speech, language, conversation, insights, and other data attributes. So there's a rich set of APIs coming specifically from the IBM Watson family that's part of this larger picture. And with that, I think that's all I have to share today, and much more conversation on this at some of the panels. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Please thank you, Savitha, for sharing ideas for us. Now, let's welcome the representative from our summit to present you a token of appreciation.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.